More than 12 million immigrants entered the United States from 1892 to 1954 through a small island in New York Harbor known as Ellis Island. The immigrants faced grueling seas combined with poor living conditions, which made getting to Ellis Island an incredible accomplishment itself. In order to be allowed into the free land of America, all immigrants except for first and second class were dropped off at Ellis Island to be inspected. Immigrants found the transition somewhat easy if their papers were in order and if the immigrants showed reasonably good health. The Ellis Island inspection process took a long 3 to 5 hours of waiting with all the others for their chance to the new world. The newcomers were inspected in the registry room, while doctors would briefly look over every immigrant for blatant physical disorder. Doctors stationed at Ellis Island quickly became very adept at conducting 6-second physicals, which helped speed up the immigration process. However, getting through was not always easy. Immigrants were frequently held on Ellis Island in quarantine, where they sometimes ended up getting sicker and catch new diseases. Overall, coming to America was a huge sacrifice and risk for whole families trying to make a better life, and Ellis Island was just another mountain to climb on the way to the land of the free.
That the nails and the eyes, the mouth, ear, and then teeth, and one after another we went, and I was through that. I was very happy.
We were healthy looking, we all had nice rosy cheeks. We were lucky. There were many that were sent back. My sister said some of them were jumping off the boats because they were told to go back. We were the lucky ones.
The first problem with Ellis Island was that the tests that they put the immigrants through were unfair, unsanitary, and violated their human rights for people with foreign disabilities. When the boats arrived at Ellis Island, medical inspectors would board the boats, searching for signs of disease, while quickly looking over the first and second class passengers. These passengers were allowed to go straight to the mainland, while the lower classes were unfairly forced to go through Ellis Island, at the risk of being deported or catching one of the many diseases that filled the inspection stations. Before being let into actual U.S. soil, the immigrants were required to go through multiple tests that tested for physical and mental illnesses, along with answering questions about wealth carried, name, birth date, and 26 other questions regarding personal information. If any tests were failed or a legal inspector thought the immigrant was likely to become a public charge or an illegal contract laborer, then they would be put in holding, places usually outfitted with 40 cots packed into each space with no blankets or pillows. The young Isabel Belarski from Russia recalls being quarantined for a few days.
We were fed a bowl of soup and allowed 10 minutes of fresh air. They counted us every time we entered or left the room.
These uptight rules did keep most diseases from entering the United States. However, some tests were designed to keep unwanted immigrants out, just because they assumed the immigrant was going to cost the government without any background or proof. This judgment violated their rights as people, as they are innocent till proven guilty, and because they had not committed any illegal contracting of labor, or cost the government on their behalf. While Ellis Island attempted to keep unsuited immigrants out by unfair tests, on the government side, inhumane acts and laws were put into place to keep inferior races, religions, and overall people out of the pure American ways. In 1882, Congress passed the first law that restricted immigrants, the Chinese Exclusion Act. This act was one of the most inhumane steps for the U.S. government against new immigrants looking for a safe place to live with their families. The act doesn't actually give any direct reasons to why Chinese can't enter the U.S., other than the fact that settlers in the West felt that their jobs were endangered to cheap migrant workers in need of work. In the Declaration of Human Rights, written under Article 9, it states that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. This is violated by Chinese Exclusion Act, as it is unfair to keep immigrants out because of their race, as long as they fit all of the other required tests in order to be an American. Legal inspectors to companies on the mainland The new immigrants were always the inferior people with little to no say or help. While still on Ellis Island, it was easy for an inspector to get an immigrant deported, simply by just saying that he thought the immigrant would become a public charge or even illegal contract laborer. Throughout the period of 1880 to 1921, the new immigrants were met with criticism and resistance. More than 120,000 immigrants were sent back to their countries of origin, and during the island's half-century of operation, more than 3,500 immigrants died there. Other detainees included stowaways, alien seamen, anarchists, Bolsheviks, criminals, and those judged to be immoral. Approximately 20% of immigrants inspected at Ellis Island were temporarily detained, half for health reasons and half for legal reasons. These reasons for detention made it unfair for immigrants that were desperate for a new life, which the United States of America should allow even if their past raises questions or concerns. Immigrants were always treated poorly as they were constantly having to battle laws and tests as they went through the immigration process on Ellis Island. To summarize, Ellis Island challenged newcomers' human rights by creating unfair tests, exclusionary legislative acts, and the bad treatment of immigrants throughout Ellis Island. These harassments were just some of the problems faced by immigrants on their way to the new world known as the United States of America.